Oh, I died. How's it going, guys? So I'm playing Pac-Man today because in our Torchmate tutorial, we are going to work on drawing this Pac-Man scene right here. Okay, we'll have a Pac-Man and little this guy, whatever it's called. I don't know, Creeper. I don't know what that thing is. But anyways, we're going to draw one. I think his name's Blinky, or there's have different names or something, but I don't really remember. But it is a great game. Not like that newfangled stuff you kids play today, but that was a back in the old days. Pac-Man was a good game. I used to put a quarter in the machine and go play at the arcade in Los Osos. So, anyways, we're just going to use these images to learn how to edit some nodes. Okay. So nodes are a tool that our software uses to be able to edit shapes and things like that. So one of the things when we start importing images, like our clip art or images from the internet, the logos, that type of thing, we're going to need to learn how to edit these nodes to be able to change shapes and to fix um, images that don't import properly, and to just it's a very useful tool for editing purposes. Okay, so let's do this. Let's get the torch made up, and I've got one here. I'm going to delete. So um, so what we're going to do is take a look at our Torchmate, and I have the material size set to 48 by 48. But really, for this experiment here, we're making a little thing to work on editing nodes. We're not actually making anything to cut out, so it doesn't matter. I'm not going to worry too much on this one about size or position or those types of things. But we will kind of try to get the shape to look the same. Really, is all we're trying to do here. Okay. So let's start with a circle. So we'll go over here to our tools tab, grab our circle tool, anywhere on the screen, doesn't matter. We'll drag and create a circle. Okay. I'm going to deselect the circle, and I am going to go ahead and make it just like about an 8-inch circle. Just like I said, size isn't super important for this one, but just so that we're kind of on the same page, and it'll be later when we make some of the other shapes that just kind of help us keep everybody on the same page. So, but like I said, I'm not ultra concerned with size or scale on this one. Okay, it's not a precision part. So I've got a circle here. Now you'll notice that if I double click the circle, let me zoom in a little bit here. If I double click the circle, you'll see that I still have all my circle tools because it's still considered a circle. So if I have a radius of 4, if I wanted to change it, I could. But what I want to do is actually edit the shape of the circle. So in order to do that, I'm going to need to convert it. So to convert it, I'm going to come over here to arrange, and you'll see we have a convert to. We have two options here. We've got a poly arc and a polygon. Let's start with a poly arc, and we'll take a look. So real quickly though, before I convert it, just to review, if I click on this, it allows me to click on it once, allows me to edit it like by moving it, and I can scale it and all that kind of thing. If I double click on it, it wants to edit the actual geometry, the location, and the size of the radius, those types of things. Okay. So now if I convert it, go to arrange, convert to, let's look at polyarc. So now it's converted to a polyarc. You see it didn't change the shape or do anything yet, but if I double click on it, that's where you'll see the change. Okay. Now I have these nodes, and what these nodes do is they allow me to edit. So if I grab that node, it allows me to move that guy around. Okay. If I grab on the poly arc, it allows me to change the shape of the arc to whatever kind of shape that I would like. All right. So I can come in here and really kind of modify the shape quite a bit. All right. I'm going to hit an undo, or actually I'll just hit apply to accept that, and you can see that now that would be my shape. That would be my geometry. And if I turn my show fill on, Alt S or show fill, you can see that's the shape that I would cut out on the Plasmacam, right? Of course, we'd have to tool fit and do all that, but so let's do let's do an undo and do a couple of them. Get it back to a circle. Okay. Now I'm going to turn my show fill back off because I think for editing nodes it's easier to have it off. If I want more nodes to edit, more nodes to play with, the convert to polygon is going to give me many more nodes. All right, so if I double click here now, you'll see how many nodes that I've got there, right? So this then allows me to really kind of take control of what I think, I can start to modify and edit every part of this, okay? So if I wanted to make the Pac-Man and I draw one of these nodes and grab it in, that's obviously not quite to scale, right? That doesn't actually look good. So I could take this one, you think, and say, well, okay, well, maybe I could grab this node. And by the way, to select the nodes, I just put the mouse over them and click left click, right? Just a standard index finger left click. You think, well, I could drag this up, but then that's not really what we want either, right? So what we need to do is actually get rid of a few nodes. So what I'm going to do instead is delete some nodes. So let me just draw a box around these. Let's see, how big should Pac-Man's mouth be? Maybe like up here? So let's get rid of these nodes right here. I'm going to highlight those. I'm going to highlight them just by drawing a box around them. So click and hold the mouse button down and then drag and then let go. And that holds those. Now I'll just hit the delete key. Okay. And then I'll do the same thing here. I'll delete about 4 nodes. Delete. Okay. So now we see that it's kind of starting to look a little bit more like a Pac-Man shape. If we're done at any time, we can just hit apply and it finishes it for us. But you can see that that's not right. That doesn't look like Pac-Man, right? Let me double click back on there. The issue is that these nodes right here, this is a curved node, and so are these. And what we probably want is more of a sharper point right there. So there's a way to change this node from a curved style node to a sharp corner node. And the way to do it is to put your mouse over it and right click this time instead of left click, right click, and you have to hold the right click down. If you don't hold it down, it just blinks, right? So that's one click, so hold it down. And then this is a little editing palette. And this palette allows us to change these nodes to modify them. If I wanted to delete a node, I would just drag to the trash can and delete it. And you'll see that it snapped, and now I don't have, I deleted the node that was back here, so it just snapped this thing back to this line. So if I wanted to create a new node, I could just get where I think the node should be and just double left click. Okay, now I have that node again, and I can drag that guy back in here. Okay, but like I said, I think what our issue was is that it's too round. So you see that we have this round shape. That's the style of node that I have right now. If I wanted a more square shape, I could click this one. And now you see that created, and that looks much better, more like the Pac-Man style that we're looking for. Okay, up here still looks a little wonky though. So if I wanted to clean that guy up, if I wanted this to be like a sharper point right here coming down, I could do the same thing. I could highlight this one and I could click the plus sign, which is a sharp corner, right? And would allow this one to kind of sort of clean up this direction. That looks a little bit nicer. Now you have another option in there that the 3 shapes that we have are the sharp corner node, the rounded corner node, and then the triangle node. Let me click this one so you can see what that does. What that does is it kind of does both. It sort of makes it sharp, but keeps some of the characteristics of the curve, which a lot of times is a good thing for cutting out pieces of metal, because a lot of times on a piece of metal, we don't always want that corner to be super sharp like that, right? So sometimes the triangle nodes are good to have on those corners. Now you notice it did get a little curvy here, so maybe I just adjust that back a little bit to kind of arrange it like so, right? I think that would actually be pretty good. Now I'm gonna just leave it this way so you can see the difference between the two as we continue. But so I'm gonna leave this one sharp and that one as a triangle. You can do yours however you want. You can do them triangles or you can do them sharp, but don't leave them curved because that looked pretty funky. All right. Now when I'm done editing these nodes, I can click apply, and there's my shape. So you can kind of decide if you like this better or that better and go with that, right? Let's take a look at the show fill. So there it is. There's our Pac-Man. If we thought that if we double click it, if we thought that this was too close or too far, we could always edit it just by simply dragging it. We can move it anywhere we want, right? But I think probably proportionally, I don't know, somewhere around in there. I think he actually goes past center, I think, if I remember correctly, but something like that. Okay. All right. Now, another thing that we can do is that, like I mentioned, all these nodes are going to be printed out when we print this guy to G code. Or maybe I didn't mention that. I don't remember. But when we actually go to make this thing go to the machine, it's going to print out lines of text files. It uses G and M code, and that's a machine language that tells the robot what to do. In this case, the robot is the plasma cutter, so it's going to tell it where to go. Each one of these nodes will have its own line of G code, so there's a lot of G code involved with this. So, and really for this curve right here, there doesn't need to be that many. So at this point, maybe if we went back to convert to polyarc, and now if we click on it, you'll see that it kept a bunch of arcs over here because it had some geometry there where it felt like it needed to. But it kind of, and then down here as well, but it cleaned up a lot of those points. So that's one way to go about it. We could convert it to a polyarc. You see, it didn't really change the shape of it at all. It just changed the nodes, which would save us some G code. Let me do an undo. So now if we double click it, see if we can, I guess maybe, see if it'll let me undo the convert. Do a couple undos. Okay, that did the mouse down there. So let's see what it is now. Yeah, so now it's back. Okay. So the other way we can do it, if we wanted to leave those nodes, but we don't want to convert to a polyarc, there is a simplify tool. So if we click simplify, it says that may cause some history to be lost. Do you wish to proceed? Let's see what happens. Click yes, and everything looks okay. It didn't really simplify it though, did it? Sometimes the simplify tool, yes. I've had good luck with it and bad luck. It looks like for whatever reason, this part doesn't really want to simplify. But so let's just stick with the, a lot of times the simplify will just eliminate a lot of unnecessary nodes. But in this case, it's not really working. So let's just go with, let's go back to the convert to polyarc. And now when we click on it, that'll save us some code, right? That'll save us a lot of lines of code. I wonder if we could just simplify a smaller portion. Let's see if we can do this. If we highlight those and hit simplify, let's see what happens. Not really. It might have taken out one or two, but I don't think it took out much. So anyway, it's not that big a deal. It's just really memory. It's a bigger file to transfer. It's a bigger file to read. It's more node points for the controller to go to, and it just kind of potentially there's more room for errors is the only real benefit of having, or the downside of having too many nodes. The benefit of having less nodes is that there's less room for errors. So anyways, that should be fine. Okay, that's going to work out okay. All right, so I'm happy with this. Let's draw some of the little dots that he eats. So this will be real easy because we don't even have to edit these nodes. I'm just going to draw over here. I'm going to make the size of that one 2 inches. So I'll do is a 1 inch radius up here. Enter. And then if I want to center the height, we have our hotkeys. C centers right to left, E centers height. So that gets that right directly in line with the height. And rather than draw multiples of these and try to line them up, I'm going to show you a command here. Okay, this is the array command. It's under layout, and we hit array. And for those of you that have AutoCAD before, you know what array does. Those of you that haven't, this is a new command for you. What it does is it starts to create multiples of the same part, and it aligns them in a specific pattern. So right now they're being arrayed on an arc over here, which is kind of a weird layout for what we're trying to do. We want a horizontal pattern. So if we drop this little arrow down, we see we have vertical, staggered, and horizontal. We want horizontal array. And then we have to pick the distance between the array. So let's just say 2 inches because that circle that we have is 2 inches. And then the total over here, let's bump that up. Let's get a few more. You can see I can keep going as many as I want, right? I'll just keep it back at like, say there. I don't know, is that 5? Okay. And when we like it, we're happy with it, let's close it. And you see they created those, and they're in a horizontal array, so they lined up perfectly right to left. Could have done it vertically and done them vertically as well. So another useful tool to know moving forward, if you are creating things and you want to get a pattern going, you can use any of those array patterns for those types of things. Okay. All right. Now let's draw our little ghost or goblin or creeper or bad guy, whatever he's called. So there's multiple ways we could go about creating that shape with our nodes, but I'm going to start just again with another circle. So grab the circle tool, since we've been using those quite a bit today. And I'm going to come over here, and they should be a little smaller, I think. So we'll go like that. Don't know exactly what size, but we'll call it like that. Okay. Now I'm going to turn the show fill off, because just sometimes I like to turn it off just to get it out of the way. I like to work with just the lines, the geometry. And now I'm going to convert this to polygon, because I want to have a bunch of nodes to work with to create this guy. Okay. So now if I double click here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to about the halfway point, so kind of the tangencies, which to me looks like they're right about on this line. And I'm going to grab these nodes. I'm going to highlight all these bottom ones. And I'm going to grab, if I highlight, you see my cursor kind of switches to these crosshairs. And if I grab one and move it down, I can drag this circle, and it allows me to make a shape like this. All right. Now, this shape across the bottom right here isn't really what I want, because those are going to kind of be, there's a lot of stuff there, a lot of junk there that I don't want to work with. So what I'm going to do actually is start with this one. I'm going to make that one a square corner. And, oh, I had them all highlighted, so it made them all square. Well, that's actually okay, because I'm going to get rid of them anyway. I'm going to highlight these bottom ones. So it doesn't really matter the order you do this, but the reason I made that square is because I wanted that line to go across the bottom straight. Okay. Could have done it, let me apply that. I could have done it the same way. Draw another circle and just show you real quickly. If I had this one, make a little smaller one, and arrange, convert to polygon, double click, highlight here. It doesn't really matter the order necessarily. I could have just deleted all these first, but then it's going to do that, right? And then that's where, when I convert that to a square and that one to a square, it takes me back to a similar shape, right? Okay, now I need to get the bottom part. Let's apply there. So I need to get the bottom part to have that kind of zigzag in it. So I'm just going to create some more nodes here to edit this, to edit these points so that I can create those. So I think I need like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to say like 5. I don't know if that's right or not, but we can always just delete or add nodes as necessary. Then I'm going to drag this one up and over here. I'm going to scoot that one a little closer. Drag that one up here. I don't know how, I didn't, you guys could get all official if you want and Google it and look it all up. And some of you might be video game purists and say that I'm off here. So I think that's about right. This one looks too long, so I could add one more and just bring that one down to there, and then add one more to bring it up to here. But that looks like that might be too many. Let's delete these ones. We'll get rid of those, and then we'll just kind of spread these out a little more. I don't know. It could be wrong. I should probably go check, but I'm not going to. All right, so I'm just kind of editing these around. Now, there's also different versions around of how those guys look. Some drawings or pictures that I see, they look more curved. Of course, back in the day when these were actually made, they were super pixelated, so it's kind of hard to tell. But if you wanted them to be, so let's apply that. Let's take a look. So we'll get I'm going to hit Alt-S to get my show fill back on. So it looks like this, right? That's not bad. Looks pretty good. If you didn't want them sharp, you could double click on there, and we could turn this one into a circle, a curved style. Let's see what it looks like if we turn them all into a curved style. something like that. Whoops. That one, let's do one undo there. There we go. Apply that. That doesn't look bad either. It kind of depends on what your preference is. I'm going to leave them square. There we go. I'm going to leave those points sharp. Okay. So then we've got this guy waiting to attack. Obviously, he doesn't look quite right yet because he doesn't have any eyeballs. So let's do those parts, which you guys should probably be able to do on your own at this point because you've already done those. But take a circle and draw however big you think the eyeball should be. I'm going to go with that size there. I'm going to Control D to duplicate it, or you could go up to the edit and duplicate. I'm going to take these two. Let's turn the show fill off, Alt S. I'm going to take these two, highlight both of them, and I'm going to push E to center them height-wise so they're even. Bring them on here. Yeah, they look a little big. Let's scale them. Highlight both. Let's see if we can draw a box around just those two and see if I can scale them here. There we go. That looks better. I like that better. Okay. And arrow over a little bit to kind of center them. Maybe up a tad. I don't know, whatever. Again, like I said, we're not looking for real specific dimensions on this one. And then that looks good. Okay, now, but then remember, if we turn the Alt S back on or the show fill back on, they are separate units, so we need to make these a path. So remember, when we're welding two solids together, we use the weld tools, but when we're removing parts from inside like this, that's a make path. So arrange, make path, and we got those guys there. But he needs the little eyeballs inside, so let's create another circle. Kind of draw one in here that's going to look about right. I think probably something like that. And then arrow that one. Let's see, let's accept it. And then we'll just do a little arrow over until it's going to merge a little bit. And then I'll hit Control D to create another one. And I'll drag that one down to here. And those guys should be good. Now, in order to get those to this one, that's where we'll weld it, right? So I'll highlight this part. Let's turn this show fill off here. So if I highlight the body and then Control to select, or I'm sorry, Shift to select the body and the eyeball, and then if we just do a basic weld, it should weld those two together. And remember, we can't weld. I can't weld this. There's nothing there to weld. And the problem with that is, well, besides the fact that he looks cross-eyed as a bat and really weird, but if we're cutting this out of metal, this piece is floating. So that doesn't work, right? We can't have a piece floating inside of a hole. Can't have a piece of material that's not linked to another piece of material. You could get creative if you were welding it to if you wanted to build like a plate behind it, or if you're going to glue them down to a piece of wood to make a plaque or something along those lines. I've done a lot of that where you cut out like material here is kind of rusty maybe, and then you weld it to a piece of stainless steel behind it, and then you can put it in there with like that with no lines or connections. But in this case, we're just gonna move this guy over to slide it over this way so it intersects just a little bit, overlap there. Hold Shift to select the outside and do another basic weld. And there we go. We're done. Well, we're almost done. We got to make sure we save this to the correct location, right? So do not forget when working in Torchmate to always save as and save to the appropriate location. We go save as. Now, yours is probably going to default to this documents folder is where it usually defaults. This is not yours. You do not own this folder. You need to make sure that this save as is always going to your P drive. So I'm going to go to my P drive, and inside my P drive, I have a Metal 2 folder, which you should as well. And then this is where we'll save this. And this one, it gets saved as, I don't remember, let's check. I think it was for my initials nodes. So this one will be 4-TF nodes. So go back to the Torchmate, and I'm going to go 4-TF nodes. Okay. Actually, I'll put a little space between the TF, or you should probably put an underscore, not a space. Just good computer practices to not have spaces. Anyways, 4-TF nodes, hit save, and we're done with this one. Congratulations. You guys now have some node editing experience. And if you want to play with them some more, draw some other shapes, right? And fiddle with some nodes and see what you come up with, right? We got something like this. And you want to edit that, you click on it, it's just a square. But if you convert it to a polygon or a polyarc, it allows you now to have some nodes to edit if you wanted to like change the shapes. If you wanted to, okay, so this is something I should bring up. In a polyarc, it doesn't allow you to actually change the nodes. It leaves them round because it is an arc, but it allows you to easily grab this shape here and change the shape of it, right? And click apply. In a polygon, convert to polygon, then we double click it. Now this one is the one that allows you to easily change if you wanted to do some different edits, right? So maybe I wanted to put another square point in there so that I could drag a square point there and maybe drag this one out and kind of do some different types of things. I don't know. Maybe we're doing, I have no idea. I'm just freestyling now, but kind of like this little spiky hair style thing on sunburst or whatever. So anyways, feel free to fiddle around, play with the nodes. The whole point of this assignment is to learn, get the editing kind of figured out a little bit, maybe see what happens if you delete some nodes, what's that do to the shape? How could you get used to creating something that you, maybe with this one here, we want to change the shape of this one. I can grab that guy there and then add a node and do some different work to it, right? So anyway, have fun with it, fiddle around, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. Just let me know. All right, good luck.